Brigadier General Charles Duke, Apollo 16 astronaut, U.S. Air Force officer, and one of only 12 humans to walk on the moon, is with us today. His story is one of service, courage, and exploration at the highest level. Charlie's journey to space began as a fighter pilot, a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, and later an Air Force test pilot. His precision and skill paved the way for his selection as an astronaut for NASA's Apollo program. In 1972, as the Lunar Module Pilot for Apollo 16, Charlie became the youngest person to step foot on the moon at just 36 years old. Now, I want to pause and say, I'm 40. What have I been doing with my life? While on the lunar surface, he conducted experiments, collected samples, and contributed data that continues to shape our understanding of the moon to this day. But to me, one of the most remarkable things about Charlie is the way he connects with people. I'll never forget meeting him almost exactly 8 years ago. Tomorrow, it will be exactly 8 years ago to the day, with my then 6-year-old daughter, Millie. Like many kids, she was fascinated by space and thrilled to meet an astronaut. She asked him what he did on the moon, and when he replied, "I collected rocks," her face fell into a pout, and she declared, "That's not fair. You got to go to the moon and I didn't." I feel the exact same way. That moment captured the essence of who Charlie is. Yes, he's a legend of space exploration, but he's also someone whose warmth and humility have inspired generations to dream bigger and aim higher. Even after the Apollo 16 mission, Charlie continued to serve and advance NASA's efforts, leaving a legacy of leadership that paved the way for the future of human spaceflight. His contributions remind us of what can be achieved through dedication, courage, and a belief in the impossible. As we look ahead to new frontiers, whether it's returning to the moon, reaching for Mars, or safeguarding our assets in orbit, we are fortunate to stand on the shoulders of pioneers like Charlie. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming a living legend, a man whose achievements have left an indelible mark on the history of exploration, Apollo 16 astronaut, General Charles Duke.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Major. Thanks for the great introduction. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks so much. Please be seated. It's a great pleasure being here. I want to thank the U.S. Space Force for sponsoring this event and our trip. And so getting to meet those who are now recruiting for the Air Force, for the Space Force, it's great meeting you. They worked at the recruiting service at Randolph, and where I worked my last 8 years in the Air Force Reserve, so it's good to, I was recruiting 18-year-olds back in those days. It was in the early, let's see, 70s, I guess, before that. My career is just going in my mind now, trying to get the years straight, but anyway, it's good to be here. I want to talk about Apollo and how it got started. And a little bit about my career. I tell a lot of young people, I said, just keep your antennas up, because you never know where your career is going to take you. And sensitive to urges. And at the Naval Academy, I had this urge to, I just loved airplanes, and they gave me some rides in airplanes. So I decided to, back then you could go in the Air Force and from the Naval Academy. And so I went to went into the Air Force, and in October of 1957, I just soloed when Sputnik went up, the beginning of the space age. It really got our attention in the U.S. then with the first satellite in orbit. We were pressing on with our space program, but it was not very successful in those early days. Anyway, I graduated from flight school, flight training, and was assigned to Germany in 1959. And in the spring of 1959, I went over to Germany. They'd picked the first group of astronauts. NASA had been formed. So the space race was on, if you will. And so I was just loving my job over there, and it was tremendous flying at Ramstein Air Base in Germany. While I was on the way over, I think I mentioned the first group of astronauts was selected. And I didn't even have an idea about being an astronaut. But I wanted to advance my career, and a year and a half later, in 1961, Yuri Gagarin was the first human being in space. The Russians beat us. And then Alan Shepard was the next. And then after that, there was a commitment by President Kennedy to go to the moon on the Apollo program. Well, later on, I found out that Wernher von Braun had written a letter to then President, and I have a copy of that letter. And in this letter, he said, "Mr. President, we can't beat them here, we can't beat them there, but we can beat them to the moon." And so I think based on that letter, Kennedy accepted his advice and committed us to go to the moon. And we didn't know how we were going to do it. I followed the development, and there was a big debate about whether we rendezvoused in Earth orbit or rendezvoused at the moon. Well, it was decided that we would take up everything in one rocket. The lunar module, the command module, all that you needed to get to the moon. So the Saturn V was developed by Marshall Space Flight Center, and that was the vehicle that every Apollo mission that went to the moon was riding on top of. It was 363 feet tall. It was weighed 6.5 million pounds. It had 7.5 million pounds of thrust in the first stage, and you're sitting up on top of that thing, and windows are covered over. You can't see outside, and you're just listening to the count. And what you really were thinking about, keep counting, keep counting. I don't want to abort. And you had a 4-hour window to get off. And we had trained, due to some problems, we had delayed 2 years. And I'd been training for 2 years with John Young. We were ready to go. And so we were laying there, and John was on the left side, as commander, I was on the right side, and just keep counting, keep counting. And then T-minus 8 seconds, they lit the engines, and we started to vibrate from side to side. No pogo, but from side to side. And I didn't remember anybody telling me it was supposed to shake this hard, so I got a little nervous. And but John was very cool. It was his second flight on the Saturn V, and he said, "We'll go, Houston." Houston said, "We'll go," and so we went. It took 8 seconds to clear the tower, and then the next 2 minutes and 40 seconds or whatever it was, we accelerated out to use the first stage, and in that time of the first stage burn, we got to 35 miles, I think it was, altitude, and we'd burned up 4 million pounds of fuel. Over half the weight of the vehicle was gone in the first couple of minutes. And the shaking was really, and we were accelerating 4.5 times gravity, and everybody told us about, they called it the train wreck. When they shut down the engines, you went from 4.5 Gs to 0 instantly. So you stiff-armed the instrument panel to get, even though you were strapped in tight. Anyway, after that, shut down, start of the second stage, boost protective cover came off, and we could see outside for the first time. And we were going in heads down, we called it, and I looked out the window, which was right up here, and I could see the deep blue of the Atlantic fading into the light blue of the atmosphere, into the blackness of space. And all that was in this little window. It was really spectacular. We orbited the Earth 1.5 times over Australia. We reignited the third stage of the Saturn and accelerated to escape velocity, and we were on a 26 degree orbit, so we got 26 north to 26,000. We fired over Australia and we started back down to the south. Later on, we were out of orbit, and so Mattingly we had to retrieve the lunar module. And so he did that, separated, we turned around, and as I was just floating there watching these guys maneuver, into my window on the right side floated the Earth. It's about 20,000 miles away, and you could see the whole circle of the Earth and the Arctic Circle down across Canada, US, Mexico, northern part of South America. And it was just this jewel just suspended in the blackness of space, and which we had seen, of course, from Apollo pictures that had been taken, but this view of there it was, just suspended there, and you couldn't see any evidence of civilization. We could see the Rocky Mountains, the southwestern United States, the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of California, and that all was very visible. And but you couldn't see any evidence of people. There was no cities visible, and it was. We were on our way, and it was, and you were just so excited about that. I had a little feeling of I was going to get airsick, but that passed in about a couple hours, and I didn't have to use the bag that several of us had in the past. Anyway, we took 3 days. Apollo took 3 days to get to the moon, 72 hours, and we got to the moon, and went into orbit, and a day later we were on the backside of the moon, and we were 1 hour before we were to land on the moon. We were all powered up in the lunar module. We'd separated, and Mattingly had to change his orbit from a 60-mile by 8-mile to a 60-mile circular orbit. And he had to light the main engine, and when he tried to do that, there was something wrong with the control system. And John said, "Don't burn." And when John said that we weren't going to land in the next hour. And you can imagine, oh, God, I won't use the language here, but that we had on board, but it was, man, you know, an hour before, and we're going to abort this mission. Fortunately, Mission Control saved the day, as they did in Apollo. Mission Control were the heroes of Apollo. In every flight, they overcame some problem that was going to abort the mission. And, or either on Apollo 13, for instance, they came up with all of the stuff that got them back safely. So I look at Mission Control as the heroes of Apollo and their expertise and all of the flight controllers. So we came around from the backside, and they said, "Well, stand by." We're looking at it, and it took 2 revs, 2 orbits, and on the second orbit around, they said, we know what's wrong, we can't fix it, but here's a workaround, and you're go for landing on the next rev. Yahoo! You know, and the flight controller made that decision. I mean, there were big NASA experts in that room, the NASA hierarchy, but they don't make those decisions. The flight crew does. I mean, the flight director made that decision. Name's Jerry Griffin. He said, "You go on the next rev, and for your landing, and you cleared to burn." So we started our descent, and I'm going to start this. Let's see here. Well, this is some training stuff. That's me on the right. John Young, that's in New Mexico. We had a rover. We were the second crew to have a rover, and we had this one that worked down on Earth. And John's driving, and I'm the navigator on the left side up there. And this is our crew. I'm on the right there, 36. John was the commander. It was his 4th mission. Second on Apollo, and T.K. Mattingly. I'm the only one left alive of that crew. Some of the Apollo crews, all of them are dead, and we have only 4 of us moonwalkers left alive. I'm the youngest, and I'm 89, and so somebody out there, please, let's go to the moon again. So, thank you. I want to pass that baton to the next moonwalker before I go to glory. So anyway, Mattingly's passed on, John's passed on, and so I'm here as one of 4 surviving moonwalkers. This was the configuration that we went to the moon. We had the lunar module, we had to dock and extract it from the 3rd stage of the Saturn. We rode in the command module, which is on the left or right. The lunar module was there, and we had it looked like a leak when we got joined up, and we powered up the lunar module to make sure that we were okay, and it was. And so we closed back up again and went to the moon in the command module. And this is this is the view. This is the Earth that we really saw, and it was blue and white and brown. All the land from space looks brown. This is now our Earthrise. We're in orbit. This is at this point we weren't going to land, so here is the command module a couple of miles in front of us. The Earth is up here, and we're taking this picture over the rough lunar terrain. They had to get it fixed in a hurry because the moon was rotating out from under us, and we had 3 revolutions that, and if it got past, we delayed 3 revolutions, we weren't going to be able to make it back to the landing site. We were, I can't say praying at that point, but we were really hoping that Mission Control would come up with the right solution, and they did. And so we went to, we started our landing. This is a picture of just the front face of the moon. It shows where all of the Apollo landing sites were. 11 was the first, of course. Here we are in the mountains of the moon called the Descartes Highlands. And from Apollo 11 to Apollo 16, there was 8,000 feet difference in elevation. So we landed up in the mountains. The farthest was 12 was the farthest west. The farthest north was 15, and the farthest east, 17 is not on here, but it's right up in here. And so the 5 missions to the moon, we covered sort of the front face. Artemis, that's coming up, their landing zone is down here on the South Pole, and the sun is not going to get ever above 2 degrees there. And so if you look at the photos that have been taken down there, it's really rough and it's also really dark in the shadows. So they've got a challenging landing site, in my opinion. So I've discussed, there's our direct landing site, and you can see if you look at the Lunar Surveyor, the Lunar Surveyor spacecraft, they've taken pictures of all the Apollo landing sites. And you can see in our landing site, you can see the car, you can see the descent stage, you can see the experiments package, and all of basically the tracks, not individual footprints, but the tracks. And so the evidence is overwhelming that we landed on the moon. Thank you. So I told on TV, this 15, 20 years ago, I guess it was, when this big hoax deal came about. And I said, Katie Couric, I said, Katie, if we faked it, why did we fake it 9 times? And, you know, we had 6 landings and we went to the moon times. If you're gonna fake it, do it once and shut up. Yeah. But 400,000 people and not one of them has ever called it a lie that worked on that program. And so, as I said, I don't know whether he sent the other guys, but I landed on the moon. This is my words when we landed, and John did a great job. He landed it, and I just talked him down. And looking out the right window occasionally, make sure he's not landing in a big crater on the right or on a big rock. So he picked out, he had to redesignate a couple of times and then picked out a spot, and when we touched down, we were dead level. So he'd made a great decision. We looked out of his window, and as we looked to the south down here, this is south, south. And this is Stone Mountain. And on the second excursion, we drove the car up into this area right here. Spectacular view from up there. And the shadows always west. The sun was always behind us. And it was always daylight. On all of Apollo, the spacesuits would not take darkness on the moon. So we were always on the moon during the daylight, early morning of the moon day. And the shadows were very long, and we used, since there's no magnetic field up on the moon, we used the shadow as direction. And west, the shadow was west, and we had a little gyro on the car, and we rolled it up till 270 was at the top, and that was the direction. And John, I navigated across the moon, and John drove. It was a bumpy ride, but he did a great job. Well, let's see here now. Here we go. Okay, that's John Young giving me a big salute on jumping off the moon. If you notice, his shadow's not touching his feet. So he's about 2 feet off the moon, and I said, John, give me a big Navy salute. So he came out, jumped, and gave me a big salute like that. So I got that picture as he was in the air, a lot of people use this picture. Look at the flag; it's waving, and there's no atmosphere on the moon. And I mean, it's so stupid. They just put him in there, and he's not even on the ground. And I mean, it's crazy. Well, so anyway, oops, let me back up here. The flag is got a curtain rod in it holding it out, and it was vacuum packed for 6 months, and I couldn't get the wrinkle out of it. And so I just planted it in there. Well, 72 hours later, as we were leaving, I took a picture, and it was the same wrinkle. So anyway, let's go on here now. And we had a lot of experiments we put out. Each flight had a Apollo lunar surface experiments package. There were 5 experiments, and here they're listed over here. And we had 3 EVAs. We had the longest was almost 8 hours. We had a telescope that we put up for the U.S. Naval Observatory. This thing here, and John deployed that, and so we were taking pictures of in invisible to us, invisible light. Here's a car practicing on the rover. This is what it looks like see, where does the clicker go? Anyway, it's folded up. This car had to be folded up and bolted to the outside of the spacecraft, and so the chassis came in three stages. So the place to store it on the car, on the lunar module, was 5 by 5, and the car was 5 by 10. So they made it 5 by 5 by making the chassis in 3 spots and folding it up so that all the wheels put together. And then we had to deploy it once we got on the moon. And John pulled on one side with a cable. I pulled on the other side. We jacked it out, and it got out about 45 degrees, and boom! It just popped open. And we lowered it down to the moon, and we undid the front part. And then we got on one side, and I got on one, and we just walked off with it. And the car weighed 80 pounds up on the moon, in my situation here, down here on the Earth, I weighed 363 pounds. Up on the moon, 60 pounds. And John, I mean, you could really bounce a lot, but it was hard for me to hold my balance, so I didn't do much jumping. John had a great balance. And so he's driving, and I'm taking it's a Lunar Grand Prix, and I don't have a movie of it, but it's online on YouTube. It's about 5 minutes, and it shows the car underway, bouncing like crazy on the lunar surface. At this point right here, the fenders were okay, but I accidentally pulled this part of the fender off on the right rear, and the dust was pouring down on top of us. So it was a big mistake not fixing that fender, but we did not. Here's John. The commander had the red stripes, and Lunar Module Pilot didn't have any stripes. So there's the experiments package that we put out, and John's collecting some sample there. We collected 260 pounds, I think, 98 kilos, whatever that turns out to be. And we usually work together. You can see the footprints up on the moon. We never sank in more than just an inch or two. But when you started to shovel, you could shovel all the way down to, you couldn't shovel anymore, and it was still loose soil. Then I drilled a 10-foot pole, 10-foot deep hole, and we jacked it back out, and it was still unconsolidated 10 feet down, at least in this landing spot. But you never sank in more than just a couple of millimeters, a couple of centimeters rather. And you can see the footprints here. They're still there, and so we ended up, as I said, collecting a lot of special samples as we were on the moon. We had 3 EVAs outside, and the commander, you ever wonder why Neil Armstrong was the first out? Well, to get out, I'm standing on the right side, the commander stands on the left side, and to get out, you had to get on your hands and knees backwards and go out the hatch, which was between us. And when you open the hatch, and the hatch came this way, so the Lunar Module Pilot's trapped behind the hatch. First guy out's the commander, so then he gets out, and then I close the hatch, or close the door a little bit, and then open up, and then I turn around and rear end first, and you go out that way. And it was hard to get through the hatch because of the backpack and everything. You had to make sure you wiggle your way around to get through. But anyway, we trained, I can't tell you how many times we trained that down here as that exercise down here on Earth. One of the big craters that we visited on the end. It was 300, this crater actually was about 500 yards across and about 100 yards deep. And if you got right close so you could see down in it and it sloughed off and you fell in, there was no rescue. And so we ended up staying quite a bit away from these big craters. One of the most moving moments of a mission for me was right at the end. Our boys were 5 and 7 at the time, and we took a picture of the family in the backyard, and of the 4 of us. And I asked Deke Slayton, "Can I take this picture of the moon?" He said, "Sure." And I said, "I'd like to leave it on me." And he said, "Sure." So I had it in my pocket of my suit, and I pulled it out and I dropped it, and it actually came. There was no air to make it wet. When I dropped it, it just landed face up, and so I got a picture of the picture. And the temperature on the surface of the moon at this point, average surface, was about 210 degrees Fahrenheit. So it was getting real hot on the surface, and you can start to see, I just dropped this picture, but you can see it's beginning to shrivel up around the corners already. It's still there, but it's just a big black spot now after 50-something years. And so all of the equipment we left is still there. If you want an $8 million car with a dead battery, I can tell you where to go. And it's all the 3 cars are still there, and but we're not going to be landing anywhere near Apollo with Artemis. This is just an idea of what the surface looked like and where we went. We named all the craters, and they weren't official, but we named them so that Mission Control could know where we were, and the science team. And but they just were numbered as a result of our stuff. You can see the descent stage here. Here's the descent stage right here, and that you can see the car and all the experiments package. It was out here, and these footprints and all of those things. So again, the evidence is overwhelming that we made it. And it says I got 9 minutes. Am I on schedule or way over? The sign says 9 minutes to go. So I wanted to give a chance to ask some questions. Our return was uneventful. We hit Apollo didn't have wings, but it had lift because the center of gravity was offset from the center of the heat shield. So you came in your reentry with lift vector up, and when you hit the atmosphere, it wanted to bounce out like skipping a rock across the water. And if you allowed that to happen, you were in deep trouble. In fact, you were dead. You couldn't get back. And so, as Mission Control said, gave us at a time, and so at a certain time as you were digging in, we hit the atmosphere like 25,000 miles an hour, and maybe a little faster. And as it started back out, it rolled over. The autopilot just pulled us back in. It was like airplane maneuver of split S if you're a pilot. And we came back in and then began to maneuver to hit the landing spot in the South Pacific. And it all worked tremendously well. Let's go see here. There we go. Off we go. And what a ride, I was saying. What a ride. It was really a sporty ride. And the reaction control was moving it to hold its trajectory. And this was taken by the camera that we'd left on the moon, on the rover. Let's see, I think that's about it. Well, I'm going to give a chance to ask some questions now. We survived the landing, of course. We hit in the South Pacific. The carrier was on station, and so I'm looking out the window, and I see this helicopter fly by, and Mattingly's on the left side over there, and we're on 3 parachutes coming down, and I see the helicopter, and I'm up on my elbows looking out the window, and Mattingly's counting down, 1,000, 900, 800, and I said, when he gets to 100, I'm going to put my head back and brace myself. When he called 100, we hit the water. And my head went back like that, and my first job was, after we hit the water, was to push your circuit breaker in off my right knee so he could jettison the parachutes. Well, I mean, I'm not unconscious, but I'm not too there at first, and so it finally took me 30 seconds or more to push the breaker in, and by this time the parachutes had pulled us over and we were inverted. And Apollo would float right side up or upside down, and it was stable in each position. So we had some big balloons in the top of the spacecraft, which is now in the water. And so I got the circuit breaker in, Mattingly jettisoned the chutes, and then he turned on the switch and started blowing up these big balloons. And in about 5 minutes, it flipped us back over, and we were right side up. And so we're home free, and the Navy was there and picked us up, and we got back to Ticonderoga, and was mission complete. So how about some questions? I can't see very well out there, so maybe we got.
And actually, Charlie, I'm gonna take this opportunity, because no offense, guys, but I have some great questions for this man here. So. As a lot of you know, I'm taking this opportunity. As a lot of you know, I've been working on a deep dive video for 8 months. It's 2.5 hours long. And I've got some questions that I would absolutely love if you could answer for me.
Okay.
Number 1, why didn't you make the ladder any longer? Because you guys had to jump down the ladder, and the bottom rung was like...
Well, it was about, the idea was if you landed hard, the landing gear would crush, so it had honeycomb crushable in all of the legs, and if you hit hard, they would stroke, and it could leave if the ladder was into the dirt, it would be a problem. So they stopped the ladder about 2 feet, 3 feet above the surface is the reason. Yeah.
Was it a challenge at all then to get up and down that last little bit of ladder, or was that not a big deal?
It was easy getting off. It was.
I think getting back in is maybe the more important part.
Yeah, we practiced though in the vomit comet. We did a lot of practice. They have a ladder in there, and you'd practice 1/6 jumping up, and so yes, we'd practice all of this. Yeah. And it wasn't just the first time you did it in 1/6 gravity. So it wasn't any problem. You jumped and grab hold, and one foot was going to hit the rungs on the ladder. So we didn't have any problem. The only trouble was if you jumped, John could do it. He'd have a rock box in one hand, and he'd jump and hit the ladder and climb up with this rock box in his hand. I couldn't do that. I just jumped and held on and made it.
Can you imagine your life is now relying on you being able to jump 3 feet on the moon and grab onto a ladder? I mean, pretty spectacular.
Well, I hadn't practiced. We hadn't, of course, practiced that except in the lunar and the vomit comet and in 1/6 gravity parabolas. So when we decided that before we were to get back in the last time, we were going to do the Moon Olympics. And, you know, Apollo 15 had done the hammer feather trick, and Alan Shepard had hit the golf ball, and so we were going to do the Moon Olympics. And the Olympics were in Munich that year. And so we're going to do the high jump and the broad jump. So we started bouncing, and I'm behind a rover, and when I jumped, I straightened up, and my center of gravity went backwards, and over I went. And that was really scary, and I think that was probably the only time I had fear in the whole mission. But fear is not bad emotion if you don't panic. And so roll right, and I rolled to the right and broke my fall and on my back, and man, my heart was pounding like that, but I realized I'm still alive. So John comes over and looks down and says, "That wasn't very smart, Charlie." So I said, "Help me up, John." So you could hear the pumps running, and the pressure was real good, and all the stuff, all the instruments said I'm okay. So I began to calm down. Then I looked up, and the TV camera was pointed right at me, and they'd seen this stupid stunt, and they said, "No more Moon Olympics, guys. Get back inside." So I think we set the high jump record, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
So what was it unusual when especially talking about the center of mass and everything? That is actually something we talk about in the video, is how, you know, we spend our lives here with 1G. We're used to 1G. So our relationship between our momentum, your inertia, versus the effect of gravity on us, you spend your whole life there, and all of a sudden, you guys step out of this thing, and all of a sudden, physics is different. Like, you're in a different world, physics is different, and a lot of people started developing that bunny hop thing. How did that come about, and did you adopt the bunny hop, and why the bunny hop?
We did adopt that, but we practiced in the zero-G airplane, and we'd fly 1/6 parabolas. They had the car in that airplane, a mock-up one, so you could practice getting in and out of the car. Wow. And then you could practice shoveling. You could practice a lot of these things in actually 1/6 gravity. So we did a lot of that, and over a 2-year period we trained, and so you can imagine how many parabolas we had. And so we learned how to do all of that, and learn how to walk, keep your center of gravity. But when I jumped, I straightened up, and that center of gravity went backwards, and that was my big error. Anyway, we made it back, and all of the little things that could go wrong went wrong, but we'd practiced most of that stuff. And so when things would go wrong, like you fall down, I realized you could do a series of push-ups and rock yourself, and you get up, and you're back in business. The Apollo suit didn't have any convolute, didn't have any joint here, so you couldn't bend over at the waist. So you had to squat to pick up.
Yeah, a lot of the pickup motions are leg-based, aren't they? I never even realized.
John could jump up and do the split, and the momentum would take him down, and he could pick up a tool. I could never do that. It was just something that I'd miss all the time, and then I'd fall down and have to get up, a series of push-ups.
Well, and the suits are so rigid because they're pressurized. So
yeah.
That's resisting motion, and I don't think people appreciate that.
You could do the arms. You had convolutes here. You could lock your arms up here. You could not bend at the waist, but you could bend at the knee, and the upper body was not bad in an Apollo suit, and so we got used to it. And all the training we did, and so we felt pretty confident when we got to the moon.
That's absolutely amazing. Well, before we get you off stage, we're going to break protocol here a little bit. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Now, the Astro Awards are meant for missions that happened in the previous year. And if I recall, I don't think Apollo 16 happened in 2024. But we decided we would make a little bit of a difference here and break our protocol. And we are giving you what we're calling the Lunar Legacy Award to Charlie Duke for Apollo 16. I'm sure you have no shortage of awards and acclamations to your name, but here is one more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, let's hear it one more time for Charlie Duke, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you.
And just on a personal note, I have to tell you, I know you don't know this because you've met millions of people, but you signed a photo that I bought at Space Fest in 2018, and you were the most pleasant human I've ever met. And when we were talking about bringing you on for this and all that, everyone I talked to had the same story of, I met him so-and-so at this place and this. He's just the nicest person I've ever met. So on top of being an incredible astronaut, incredible person, just knowing that you're such a pleasure to be around and you've impacted so many millions of people.
Well, growing up in the South, my mama says, be nice. so I've tried to be nice.
Well, I think you have.
One final comment. I'd like to introduce my wife of 61 years, Dottie.
Such an honor to have you both here.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
It was an honor being here and good to be back in Texas. And I want to thank the Space Force again, Major. Thank you for sponsoring us. And God bless everybody. And let's press on. Back to the moon.
Thank you again, Charlie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.